Fast forward, you need to come watch on the social so I'm saying how say FunnTV GH podcast or set to because big headlines and a Jim Rena ADB Exomo Elha. I need him young Braxio say and AD Kayama show so we do subscribe to the channel. Hit on notification bell, share now for front so inside into me and Kabi. Meda was your Michelle say what me I inside Amami. And need him young Braxio your moon rain CCA. Now after say Supreme Court a day the ruling about Montino, then two speaker said Wakasa. Yentinano umriki silence on anything. Now we say in the before we able to say Kesi say speaker and comply with Supreme Court ruling now. What is the consequence? When Justice Williams Tuguba about one thing can be say saying Kesi speaker a bon humusio and as I say be a son se benyado se musio and a pobono. And as one the Bobon Humsia say Supreme Court ruling no on fa enyen tutuye on fa enyen hihye or between Supreme Court ano awo fom sana me patche dia enye ne the dies consequence except obitimi ako into prison custody for 10 years enya assemble to Akroma. Now assuming na me no kase beja for ajemre omu eyemu pensim mo yenso yetumi asone so a YouTube edi apeti eye wasoye at this point in time yenkasa bebre yemon ro mu asoye yenhwene yekọ ene de ba hye so say aha FunnTV GH
asibedwafie na enam so ma asibedwafie chairman right honorable Aban Sumana Kingsford Bagben why ne say asibedwafie dwumadie watu edi ase wonim da kro obesan ababiem no nsem no edidi mu saa kokopie mu court batan Supreme Court na nsem kokopie mu Supreme Court no ena bedwafo enso etena so a Supreme Court band dani maame tukono ena na chese wodano na nkomotwetwe na chire no wochirim se nipa enso etena so ne munum ese asibedwafie chairman ni gina isi osi no emfa na kwamu ena mu mbienu se gina isi a asibedwafie chairman si no na edana kwamu pepepe ade no so agro no ye de madodo edi nti nipa enum se gina esi amasebedwafie chairman nda na kwamu a na chese omomo de no e no mo de be ye adwuma eni nti no mu gina so ka kire masebedwafie chairman se gina esi a wasie se masebedwafie adwa ennan bi wo hodo mu a bibi nti ye ka se omo gina amanyoku omo wom enne edimu etina masebedwafie hodo mu a enye ye no se gina esi no won sanda ne biem na enye sene na etie kane no na aso se masebedwafie chairman de be ye adwuma so won fa nye adwuma Ghana fo e wo twenye mu na eno e na enkane Supreme Court judge Justice William Tuguba ene central focus na wo chirim se gina esi a Supreme Court asie no eyemra prekope Ghana ye court bata Supreme Court onya kasape na ba yemra enu nti ne ensem afim Supreme Court aba na mra se bedwafie chairman so krom hawo so woni krom ha no mu won kasa mfa ho no se bire bi so na se Supreme Court hu ni nsem na se bedwafie chairman gina esi afi court ba no won fa anya adwuma ene na mra se bedwafie chairman no ko betima dem na yiye okwa kodem susu dia na chese omodi ache no kura wan dem afiase anche kura no na enye 10 years esan say emra kasa emra so kasa ene wabuso ubu mra so dia ne ye twonwa so ene obekwa akodem na sebedwe obekwa akode afiase emfinsia pole beye edu eno ntini Justice William Tuguba edi etudwa se gina esi akoto dia ba no mra sebedwe fie chairman woni anu yesu obeka se me beye adwuma anase me mfa nya adwuma emra no de aba emra so na akasa no ntimi kasa dia na eye se wodi eye adwuma enti ohwe ani mu se ani mani ye mra sebedwe fie chairman gina esi a wosie ma no kopie mo Supreme Court court so adane se gina esi no wodi beye adwuma enye sa contempt of court ebeche no contempt of court so chi na na efiase evinsia pole du e na masebe fie chairman obekwa kodie.
Supreme Court Judge William Atuguba is warning the Speaker of Parliament, Alban Bagbin, that there will be dire consequences if he fails or refuses to comply with the judgment of the Supreme Court yesterday. The Apex Court, by a 5-2 majority decision, overturned Alban Bagbin's declaration of 4 seats as vacant, restoring the status quo in the House. In an exclusive interview with Joy News' Elton Brobe, William Atuguba, who at some point was acting Chief Justice, explained that the Speaker could spend up to 10 years in jail or be barred from holding public office if he does not comply with the orders of the Apex Court.
The decision is challenged. This is what we'll have to live with. What do you expect the Speaker of Parliament to do?
Oh, in the face of this decision, well, he's bound by the decision of the Supreme Court. He's bound by it.
I have heard the Member of Parliament for South-Dai, Rosin Dafiameko.
Yes.
He makes the point that only Parliament can give an effect to the decision by the Supreme Court. Is he right?
Oh, Of course, it's addressed to them. But it doesn't mean that if they fail to comply, they are the only people who can. There are processes. Contempt is there, and it's a high crime. Can be prosecuted, and you have to suffer imprisonment up to 10 years.
That is if the court decision is not complied with.
Yes, up to 10 years. It's not necessarily 10 years, but you must just, there's no option of a fine. You must just suffer some term of imprisonment, not exceeding 10 years. And not only that, 10 years disqualification from holding public office. If you are president, you are liable to removal as president. They are all there.
Right, so Parliament is on recess now.
Yes.
For example, if tomorrow the Speaker says that MP should report to the House for business to start, you expect the 4 MPs to boldly walk into the chamber and assume their seats?
In line with the Supreme Court decision. That is what is governing the situation now. Yeah. But the interesting thing is, this, that's why, anyway, you see, matters, this country, we want to pretend, but politics has entered everywhere.
Why do you say so?
I mean, I'm coming. Politics has entered everywhere. These politicians, you know how they operate. They are not interested in the righteousness of the matter, the correctness, but the party inclination. And that is what they use. So even somebody can know clearly that what he's standing on is wrong, but he will push it. And, well, a court is a court. You persuade it for whatever reasons. I don't know. It adopts your view. That is it.
But with Parliament currently on an indefinite suspension, NDC MP for South Dai, Roxanne Nelson Dapamakpo, says the House will have to get in session and take certain procedural steps before the judgment of the Supreme Court can be given effect.
You may have to go through some processes for that to be done. It's part of the procedure. So Parliament will have to take certain decisions to give effect to the Supreme Court decision.
So is it your submission that if Parliament doesn't carry out certain procedures, the Supreme Court ruling does not yet apply to you?
I'm saying that the Supreme Court has made the declaration. It has to be given effect. Parliament is not a one-man entity. It's a whole organization. It's an organ of state. So it must go through a certain processes, certain procedural processes to give effect to the Supreme Court decision. So it's not an automatic thing. Processes will have to be gone through. Procedures will have to be followed.
Okay, can you please walk us through those processes?
Okay, for instance, the Marshal's Department will have to take steps to readmit these 4 ex-MPs. Then we have the clerk, who is the clerk to Parliament and also head of the parliamentary service, must also take steps to give effect to the Supreme Court decision.
That's Roxanne Nelson Dapamakpo there. Let's bring in former Chief of Staff under President Kufuor, Kojo Mpiani. We are grateful for your time here on the Midday News on this matter. So knowing what you know, we know that the Speaker, we are told, is bound by the Supreme Court decision. But do you see that decision yesterday ending this whole debacle?
What? Can you repeat the question, please?
I'm asking if you see this particular decision from the Supreme Court yesterday ending this whole back and forth that we're seeing in Parliament.
I hope, it is my hope that it will end it. But you see, I believe Parliament should find a way of resolving its issues instead of running to court. Because if you go to court, the court gives its decision, fine. So what happens in this case, for example, you go back to Parliament. I hope, and my sincerest hope that the Speaker will not accept, maybe that's the right way. The Speaker should do what is required of him because the Supreme Court has spoken, and therefore he has to abide by the ruling of the Supreme Court. And I believe he's an experienced lawyer. He's been in Parliament since the beginning of the Fourth Republic. And therefore, it's my hope that he will just accept the decision of the Supreme Court and move on. But to go back to what you are. You see, Parliament should avoid the running to court for the court to decide for Parliament. I believe Parliament should be able to resolve issues itself. Let's take this particular case. If you go back to Parliament and for example, you don't get quorum, you take decisions. What have you achieved? Yes, the Supreme Court has said that this is the situation, fine. But then you don't even have quorum to proceed with your work of Parliament. What have you achieved? You haven't achieved anything. I believe they have behaved as we all believe they should behave. They are all very mature people, very intelligent people. Some of them are in business, lawyers and whatnot, and have judged. Maybe they will have resolved this issue instead of running to court to ask the court to tell them what they should do. I, for example, personally don't believe that Parliament should be injuncted by anybody. Because if you do that, you make the work of Parliament very difficult. Next time I will run to Parliament, I will run to court to injunct Parliament to have the Parliament do its work. I believe that if you allow Parliament to take its decision, then you can go to court to challenge the decision of Parliament. But to injunct Parliament, I personally think is the wrong approach to solving problems in Parliament.
But to the extent that this step to go to court was taken by your side, at least from the majority.
Fast forward, you need to watch on your social platforms. I have FunnTV GH. Political stories are trending me with big headlines. And a Jimre na EDB Exum Ewa. Need me on Brazil and AD Kanya. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. Hit on notification bell. Share na a full front or answer into me in Kabi. And need me on Brazil in TNC ABM. Now, after say Supreme Court, Edin ruling Eba Montino. MPP Fubi AX Speaker Asema or Kennedy. I beg your pardon, Supreme Court Asema or Kennedy. Unconstitutional. Is saying to know Anyadi on the way Yuma. Now, assembling in so etimi aqua kujina a speaker so a Aban Barbin. Aban in Kasai. Nemu may Justice Williams at Tuguba. Ababontin and what can be said. Saying Kesi says his speaker Yana being said, and Yadia or the Supreme Court in Shishayano. Ebe Yumadia. And ye one can was Emra and anybody power. If the Supreme Court kasa preko or kasa so be a jitum and they say a train asem ananano asem form and to ruling a year Supreme Court by Speaker of Parliament and where no one into training in Shishi of Parliament and yes adia and no woko efiase mako in fee poly mako edu. What didn't you say? My menu comment under the comment section. Channel some say I FunnTV GH. Yes, I'm running sim beam.
Majority side in Parliament, the NPP for that matter. Would you say that going forward there should be more broader consultation on the part of your side?
I believe that what should be done. The Parliament, they are very mature people. I know quite a number of them. They're very mature, very experienced people, and I believe they should be able to sit to talk and come to some conclusions. That will be better for Parliament and that will be better for the country. And I believe that's what they should do now. They should forget whatever has happened. Sit. Jojo, come to some understanding and let's move on. I believe that's what they should do now.
Do you see this Parliament moving on and becoming the same as it's supposed to be?
It's my hope that that's what they should do. I know there are difficulties now, but as I said earlier on, they are very experienced, mature people in there. You should forget what has happened, sit, talk, and then find solution to move on. If they don't do that, nobody benefits. Not them, not the country. After all, they have just some few weeks for this Parliament to come to an end. And if nothing goes on, it's a country which suffers.
Do you think this whole controversy needs a mediator or a mediation of a sort? And who do you see leading that mediation?
I think what they should do, they themselves should initiate action. And if they are not able to resolve that, then they can talk of having mediation. If they themselves, with open minds, sit together, I'm sure they will be able to have a solution to this.
Okay, we're grateful. That's Kojo Mpieni. He's a former chief of staff under President Kufuor there intervening on this matter. Also, meanwhile, independent presidential candidate Kofi Krantin wants Parliament to respect the decision of the Supreme Court.
But if it's gone to Supreme Court and they have an interpretation and it's conclusive, then we have to move forward. Taking a stand to say it's not a crisis. I don't know how the Speaker could overrule what has come out of the Supreme Court. At least that's why we have a Supreme Court. So if it's a body that we go to at the highest of moments where there is confusion that we need their interpretation and they've given one, you can then go back and say, well, I have a difference of opinion on the way that I stand. But the more interesting thing is the passion that they have at this merry-go-round thing. I think it's a merry-go-round because they never seem to have this amount of passion when it comes to corruption. This amount of passion when it comes to, let's find out the people who are mutilating our lands and poisoning our waters. How about that? I never seem to see a passion like that. This is the struggle of the titans. They're going at each other, they're talking. Why don't we see the same display in Parliament?
Also, Vice Presidential candidate for Movement for Change, Kwame Owusu-Danso, says the country's democracy is being threatened by the conduct of parliamentarians. He's been speaking to Faustina Safo on News Desk.
Our democracy is being threatened, and we are sitting there unconcerned. We are so married to our political parties that we are blinded by the exigencies of now. Like the fact that our democracy is being threatened, and we are sitting there, we are happy, we are supporting gleefully. It is terrible. That is a problem. And we must begin to put on our thinking caps. Why are we doing this to ourselves? Are we so partisan to the point where we will relegate patriotism to the background?
You feel what is happening in Parliament is purely political?
Absolutely. Because there are no independent-minded members of Parliament. All of them are married to their political ideologies. They create this veiled attempt of furthering and advancing our democracy. Okay, but when you pierce the veil and you go behind this veiled attempt, you will notice that every single thing that they do is in the interest of their political parties. It is not in the collective good of the Ghanaian people. That, for me, is a problem. And that problem has to be addressed.
That's Vice Presidential candidate for Movement for Change, Kwame Owusu-Danso. Now, the Trades Minister and NPP MP for Adansia Sokwa, Katie Hammond, has filed a criminal complaint against NDC MP for Ketu North and former Deputy Minority Leader, Dr. James Kluche Afeji. Katie Hammond, in his complaint to the police, alleged that he's been assaulted by the chairman of the Public Accounts Committee. A video has gone viral following the indefinite adjournment of Parliament last week, where some NDC MPs, including Dr. Afeji, are seen haggling with the Trades Minister. Listen to excerpts of it. Well, Katie Hammond, who has since gotten a police medical form to be examined at the hospital, says he will pursue his complaint to its logical conclusion.
We are human beings in that parliament. We are human beings. We exhibit human instincts. We are not animals, and we don't exhibit animalistic instincts. I do not understand why on a matter where my colleagues, are discussing, and I wasn't actually talking to the particular Afeji man. I was talking to my nephew Ato Forsen, the minority leader. I was saying to him, Ato, it is your responsibility to make sure in the circumstances of this case, the Speaker of the House abides by the ruling of the Supreme Court. So talk to him. Show leadership. That's the person I was talking to. This man came out of nowhere and started pushing me. You guys have all seen the pictures, the videos. Pushing. I kept shouting, you can't push me like that. What is your business? Why are you doing that? He pushed me about 5 times. What did you think he was doing? So I am a complaint. Yes, I'm starting to complaint.
There are times where colleague MPs
this is not colleague. We are not animals in there. Yeah?
That's Adansi Asokwa MP and Trade Minister Katie Hammond. Well, we've tried to reach out to Dr. James Kluti-Aveji for his reaction to the complaints filed against him by the Trade Minister and his colleague in Parliament. We've been unsuccessful so far. As and when we're able to reach him, we'll bring you that reaction. Now, I'll take you to Bekwai in the Ashanti region, and we know that 6 persons have been arrested for assaulting a Joy News crew, including my colleague Erastus Asare Donko, during their coverage of impacts of illegal mining in some forest reserves. That's the Amanso, Sumenya, and they've appeared before the Bekwai Court, Circuit Court today, and 5 other accused persons we know are at large. They've all been charged on 5 counts of assault, conspiracy to commit crime, and stealing. Love News editor Kofi Edudomfe is in court for us. He'll bring us updates shortly. But we'll stay a while longer in the region because we've been hearing from the Afenyo Teaching Hospital on a lack of equipment that could aid the rollout of the free mass dialysis exercise. We've been hearing from the National Health Insurance Authority on this. They say they are expediting arrangements for additional dialysis machines for facilities undertaking the free dialysis policy rollout. Question doubts about that the policy could be in jeopardy even before it starts. NHI CEO Dr. Da Costa Boaji says the World Bank has already approved funding for resources to ensure a smooth rollout and that it will save hundreds of patients. First, let's listen to the Deputy Medical Director of the Afenyo Teaching Hospital, Dr. Yao Parilabi, making the concerns.
Currently, as I speak, we have 7 machines that are working. So we really need more machines. And we are hoping that the government will support us, just as they've done recently. I think I can mention Kolebu, who were given 30 dialysis machines, and we have 7. And if you look at the number of patients that we see in our catchment area, we certainly need more help.
And let me ask you bluntly, without the additional machines, can you take off December 1?
It's going to be difficult.
But the NHI CEO, Dr. Da Costa Boaji, is allaying fears, indicating arrangements are already in place.
Let me assure Afenyo Teaching Hospital that there shouldn't be any cause of alarm. About 2 months ago, they brought a request to the NHI seeking that we have to help them with equipment. And we wrote a proposal to World Bank. That proposal, as we speak, has been approved. And it is currently with the PPA. Once we get a PPA letter, we'll be procuring some dialysis machines, and Afenyo, Efia Kwanta, and few other centers will be benefited or beneficiaries. So they shouldn't worry at all. But you see, this is a comprehensive plan thought through by government. And so the government is also saying that within the Agenda 111, there will be centers where dialysis machines will be provided in such a way that people will not have to travel to the center, which is Afenyo, Kolebu, 37 Police Hospital, and the other centers. So I think it's a comprehensive program that has been is going to be rolled out by government, and I believe that the facilities will be able to cope with it.
That's the NHI CEO, Dr. Da Costa Boaji. Well, we'll stay a while longer on health, and the World Health Organization is allaying fears that Ghanaians could be at the highest risk of contracting the deadly Mpox virus. The United Nations Health Organ in August this year issued a red alert classifying Mpox as a public health emergency of international concern. However, ever since the outbreak, some Africans have been unable to roll out an effective emergency preparedness plan as the virus continues to spread across the continent. Speaking to Connect Africa on the Joy News channel, WHO's Africa Risk Assessment Officer, Maury Keita, told Blessed Sugan that although Ghana is handling the health emergency effectively, viruses such as the Mpox knows no borders.
Yes, I think we are doing our best to strengthen the preparedness capacity in the African region. And personally, for our program as preparedness, we are playing a critical role in governance. And apart from that, we are also encouraging a country, or maybe helping country, to do risk profiling, because as WHO, all our recommendations are evidence-based. Right. And we are drawing lessons from our previous outbreak to make it as a recommendation for the next outbreaks.
Would you say that Ghana and other African countries are out of the woods yet? What do you feel is the assessment of the situation now?
I think they are responding. Ghana is responding properly to this outbreak, as well as other countries, we know that most of the cases are coming from DRC. So that's why we are supporting, we are there, we are supporting Kinshasa, we are supporting the DRC, as well as all the countries on the continent.
Are you then suggesting that countries such as Ghana should not be worried about mpox?
Because of the number of cases, I will say yes.
Okay.
And because of Ghana has capacity in place.
That's Maury Keita. He's the WHO's Africa risk.
Into we and some who team course watching on so my man was so Jim Rewa. That's an so bad in the Admisumania. In Saint Shemwing, not young for the chance in science more. And even now, Subscribe.